Back to a top story of President Donald Trump's stern warnings and threats to Hamas in view of the Gaza ceasefire. We are going to be joined by foreign affairs expert and senior journalist Atul Taneja ji on this broadcast. Thank you very much, Atul sir. Such a pleasure having you on the show.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. How do you see this latest development of US taking such a harsh line in sharp contrast to their earlier position of not engaging with terror organizations, and that those lines coming from President Trump? Where is this coming from, and what do you think could be the broader implications here?
It's very clear, Sakal, that President Trump is in a hurry to finish off all the conflicts, whether it's Ukraine, whether it is the Gaza conflict. So he's in a rush to do that because he has his other plans. He essentially would want to revive his, the Abraham Accords, which meant that normalization of Israel's ties with its Gulf neighbors. You can see that there are talks on Ukraine going in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one country which has not joined the Abraham Accord. So, then the IMEC route. So these are his broad strategic goals. Now, what is coming in the way is this conflict. So he wants it to be wrapped up as quickly as possible. And I think he has upped the ante yesterday big time by giving such an ultimatum that either you fall in line or you are dead. So, I mean, it can't be harsher than that. The whole idea is to add enormous pressure onto Hamas and people who have leverage over Hamas, like the Qataris and the Turks. So I think that's the objective.
But is that, could that lead to some sort of a truce that we all are looking at? Because, that President Donald Trump's warning of hell to pay, quote unquote, should the Palestinian militant group really not comply, then its implications and their response, we don't know.
Yeah, so there is a real danger here of a full-scale conflict being reignited in that territory, in that geography. And President Trump has made it very clear that his support to Israel is going to be completely unqualified. And so, at this time, I don't think Hamas has too many cards because I don't think their backers, which essentially boils down to Iran, are in a position to re-enter this conflict. The Houthis have been weakened, and the Hezbollah, which is the militant group in Lebanon, has been very, very clearly weakened by the number of assassinations of its top leaders. So this is the moment. I don't see Hamas having too many cards but to comply with this ultimatum, because I think Trump means business here.
Yeah, and you look at the language, it's like a full-blown threat.
Absolutely.
Right. So US and Israel have, vehemently rejected this Gaza reconstruction plan endorsed by the Arab leaders. Trump is also endorsing Gaza free from Hamas vision already. So do you see there is a potential long-term truce in vision?
Well, look, there are two stages here. The first was really like ethnic cleansing, which President Trump had warned of, that, vacate the entire Gaza Strip, including its people, and let them be resettled in Arab areas. I think there's a shift from there. Now the thing is that the Palestinian people can stay in Gaza, but minus Hamas. So it's sort of narrowed down to that group. And I think that is the bottom line when it comes to the Americans, and that's the bottom line when it comes to the Israelis. That they can, after what happened on October 6th, there cannot be re-emergence of Hamas in a leadership position in Gaza. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Okay.
I think they've reached there, because he's also talking in his statement. He's also saying that people of Gaza have a beautiful future.
Yeah.
So there is a nuance which has been added to his earlier statement, which was a horrific statement to my mind, which was that all Palestinians in Gaza Strip have to vacate that land, which was essentially ethnic cleansing. So he's moved from that position. Now it's targeted specifically on Hamas.
What are the risks involved here? Sitting down with a designated terror group to advance his deal-making goals, this sharp contrast to the earlier position. Did anybody see this coming?
No, I think there's a consistent pattern here. In fact, it's a drawdown a bit, because earlier he said all Palestinians have to leave the territory. But now, after negotiations in Qatar, I think and these are direct negotiations between the Americans and the Hamas, which are taking place in Qatar. I think he has come down from, I think they are in a very weak position. to mount any kind of effective resistance should a situation arise that the Americans the Israelis with support of Americans go after them in Gaza.
And do you also see some larger foreign policy impact as far as these latest developments and dramatic changes made by President Donald Trump in terms of negotiating with a terror outfit like Hamas is concerned?
I think they don't care. These are niceties which were there that you will not talk to. Everybody was also talking to the terrorists. Only thing it to happen through the back channel. And the personality of Trump comes out here. He said, why do all that? I'll talk directly to you guys. Whether you are designated terrorists. And frankly, this designation of terrorism comes from the United Nations, and Trump doesn't really care too much about the United Nations. In fact, he's threatening to walk out of that. He's already walked out of its organizations like WHO.
Yes.
So frankly, it's a different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, the designated terrorist organization or the FTA and all those, in that sense, there's already a larger looming question about the relevance of the UN and how, or whether they have been successful in terms of setting a deterrence when it comes to, cracking down these terror organizations across the globe. Atul and Nejaji, the other angle that we would also like to understand from you, the European nations have also come out openly stating that Hamas, should be stripped of its governing role in Gaza Strip. How do you see that impacting the latest scenario now?
I think that's a united position of the West. It's a very different situation. When it comes to Hamas, I think the West, which is the collective West, including Europe, is on the same page. But when it comes to Ukraine, there's a complete breach of the Atlantic Alliance. Interesting that on this particular issue, they're more or less on the same side, though I don't think they will go publicly to endorse that blatant threat from Trump that, you are dead or you comply or you fall in line. The language will be different, but I think in spirit they will go along with what the Americans and the Israelis think.
Okay. One final question. How do you see this overall impacting the so-called Gaza peace plan?
We are still far away from that, Sakal. We are not there right now. Could
it be a counterproductive kind of a situation or prove to be counterproductive?
Counterproductive in the sense that can lead to another round of fighting. So we are reversing that process of ceasefire,
exactly, right.
Ability of humanitarian aid, and it could all go, it'll be up in the air immediately. In fact, that particular process will be stalled the moment the bombs start falling once again.
That's very, very unfortunate. Yes. Well, let's see how this pans out in terms of more responses trickling in. And thank you very much, Atulji, for joining us on this broadcast.
You're very welcome, Sakal.